Chapter 17. I held the mop so it was floating on the top of the water in the bucket, and I pretended it was the underwater boat that Mama would read me, 20,000 leagues under the sea. Captain Nemo, I whispered, pretending I was a sailor. Aye, matey. The squabs were only able to plug 10,000 of the leaks we have. That means we have another 10,000 left. Doggone it, I think we're going down with all the hands on board. I looked up to make sure no one was watching me too close. The ducky devastators of the Depression were still putting their instruments on the stage, waiting for Miss Thomas and Mr. Jimmy and Mr. E. Calloway. I whispered, Heavenly Father, all is lost. Then I made the mop sink into the bucket, drowning the Captain Nemo matey and all the poor squabs. They went down with a bunch of bubbles and soap suds in the dirt. I know Herman E. Calloway was trying to work me like a dog, but he was doing a real bad job of it. I already had wiped the tables, the chairs down, the log cabin, and now I was going back to clear mop the floor for the second time. It was a piece of cake. The bucket even had a thing on top that you could wring out the mop. Herman E. Calloway didn't know how much fun I was having. Making somebody work Making somebody work hard isn't easy as it looks. Some folks are good at it and some folks aren't. Some folks can look at you and tell if you're even thinking about slacking off. They'll add some more work to you faster than you can say Jack Robinson. Some folks will find an excuse to strap you with even if you're working as hard as you ever did in your life. I stuck that mop head back into the wringer. I pretended it was somebody washing machine, not paying any attention to what he was doing and getting his whole body pulled through the wringered out. I left the handle up to see what was left of this poor soul. But before I could check, someone yelled out, "One, two, 1, 2, 3." I look up. Thug was brushing his sticks across the round metal gold thing next to the drums and making a sound like soft rain was commencing to fall someone's tin roof. Only instead of sounding like rain splashing any time it wanted to, the thug had it sounding like it was coming down in a steady bouncing way. Then Dirty Deed started making this piano sound like it was kind of a drum. For a second, it fell right in with the rain Pats and the thug was making. Then it took off and made you think that Niagara Falls must sound like it. Sounded like big, bright drops of water splashing up and over and up. The drops would fall loud and clear as anything, but before you knew it, they were right back into the thug's steady, bouncy beat. Steady Eddie started snapping his fingers real soft in in time with the piano and the drums and the toothpicks jumping right along with the fingers. He did put his axe in his mouth and blew. Then, instead of the man instead of the horn making music, it seemed like the steady made it talk. It blew one long, low, rumbly sound, and I knew right then that this one deep, sad moan, that was the most beautiful sound in the world, was steady. Also held the note for a long time, and made the sax drift away at the rest of the storm of the music. It swirled and floated back and joined the rain around the thug, and the dirty deed kept going. I just stood there. I didn't even hear Miss Thomas and Mr. Jimmy and Herman E. Calloway come up from behind me. Miss Thomas rubbed her hand across my head and said, Bud, you've done a great job. This place is sparkling. I was going to say thank you, ma'am, but it seemed like talking was wrong with all these wonderful sounds coming from the people on the stage. Mr. Jimmy said, La Bone, looking good, son. Herman E. Calloway grunted, and the three of them started walking on the stage. Mr. Jimmy picked up his horn and joined the storm. Miss Thomas sat on the stool, closed her eyes, and ducked her head up and down and up and down. Herman E. Calloway stood next to his giant fiddle and started bobbing his head too. When he put one of his hands near the top of the fiddle and began pulling his strings with his other hand. Every time he patted the strings, it seemed like something wild and heavy, was walking slow and easy, or it seemed like it was thunder and soft and far away, but getting closer and closer all the time. All the instruments blended together, and just like that, the smell in the library, you couldn't tell which one was your favorite? First, you say it was Mr. Jimmy on the trumpet, and the doo doo bug, some trombone, would make you think it was the best, and then Dirty Deed would make something on the piano sound like water hitting the rocks. And there wasn't anything that sounded that good until Steady Eddie would make some saxophone sing and talk and dance around everyone else. And you'd swear that was the only sound you've ever want to hear again. All while Hermione Calloway and the thug kept everything moving by making drums and the giant fiddle pound out a soft, steady beat, like someone's heart turned way up loud. You have a real hard time trying to figure out which instrument was your favorite until Miss Thomas opened her mouth. While the rest of the band was being a storm, she was the sun bursting through the thick gray clouds. With the first thing she sang, you had to wonder why this band was called Hermione Calloway and the Dusky Devastators of the Depression, or Hermione Calloway and the Nubian Knights. It should be called Miss Thomas and the Dusky Devastators of the Depression, and the mean old guy on the giant fiddle. She was so good, she didn't even have to sing real words. Most of it she sang was like la 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 dee da 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 la and wee hoo ha 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 and wee day. Then Steady Eddie would answer on the saxophone. Before you knew it, the two of them were having a regular conversation. Every once in a while, Mr. Jimmy's trumpet would come in and put his 2 cents in, or 10 cents worth in. Then it would fade away. All the other instruments took turns trying to interrupt the conversation. But in the end, it was Mrs. Thomas's voice, steady as a saxophone, doing the talking that you really wanted to listen to. Finally, Miss Thomas did a bunch of more doody doody do do das, and Steady answered, and just as you thought you could understand this language, when the talking Miss Thomas broke out in American, and she sang, "We haven't met since then, gee, but it's been nice to see you again." Then she said, nice to see you again. And the storm was over. The last thing you could hear in the rain from the thug and the thunder and the Hermione Calloway getting farther and farther away, like the storm had gone and blowed itself over into the next county. Then it was dead quiet. I let my mop fall and clapped loud against the as loud as I could. "Wow!" Miss Thomas stood up and did one of those curtsy bows. I clapped louder. I could see now why this band had got to have 6 exclamation points behind their name.